Right, so I'm at this job because the client requires some additional work, right? But unfortunately, we've got no surge protection, we've got type AC RCBs, and also they've got these. So this code here on the Wilex had a massive recall 10 years ago or so, probably a little bit more than that, where these breakers were deemed dangerous by Wilex, and they paid loads of people to replace them. And so it's always good to check when you come across Wilex split loads or Wilex boards. Check the code. I'll put the picture of the code just somewhere here, so you can check for yourself, save it. And the client wanted some additional lighting and some additional sockets. So unfortunately, all these things combined meant you might as well just change the board. This is something they inherited when they bought the house 10 years ago. So I've carried out all my testing. I've marked all my cables. Can you see up here? I've marked them all. So I've done 1 is a dash. Then when you get to 5, you do a line, and then line dot is 6. So I've done all my testing. I've used these little Q-Tech jump leads. I'm going to whip it off the wall, and we're going to change it for, you can probably tell by t-shirt, we've changed one of the new Proteus boards, their new range. I've got some nice compact RCBOs. As you can see, my official test certificate. The only time you'll see me use an impact on a board is stripping out. First look at the Proteus board. I immediately love the dual terminals. Immediately love that. I wish more manufacturers would do that. I think Wilex do that. That is lush. I love that. And it looks really nice as well. It's got smooth curved edges. All I've done is remove the fuse, as you can tell. I popped it back in just for the keyboard warriors. So we're all safe. One thing I forgot to say, always do an earth leakage test before I did the board, before I started the board change, and we were at something like, I think it was like 7 milliamps, so happy days. I've got a 32mm whisker fire grommet going on the bottom. It's a bit of an awkward board change because we've got cables coming from below in 2 positions, from above and from behind. So I've got a 32mm fire grommet to take these in, which are 2 final circuits and the gas and water protective bonding. And then at the top, I'm going to do the right hand side knockout. All these cables coming in rear entry, and then this top one I'm probably going to do maybe a couple of 20s at the top here to get these through and use some fire membrane grommets. Let's smack this back one out here. I've got my banger, so in this job we're performing the ASCR, we're changing the board, we're adding an extra socket, and we're also adding 2 outside lights, and we're installing a doorbell transformer to feed their new ring doorbell type thing. Right, so I've got the board mounted. I've got all my whisker fire grommets in. So, I mean, there's not much I can do about the existing cabling. I'll try and dress it as neat as I can. I'll probably move this socket up, but see, I've got whisker fire grommets, I've got a whisker tails gland here, I've got whisker fire grommets at the top. I've got a new garage circuit which I'm putting in, the extra socket behind me, a new lighting circuit for the outside lights and for the doorbell transformer. I swapped all the CP sleeving out for the 2mm. It's just so much neater and nicer. I love it. I've got my main earth and 2 protective bondings in. I will label them up. I do really like this Proteus thing where you can get to the dim rail holder screws through the edge. Then, you know what I mean? I think that's wicked. That's a really clever idea. I'm going to slice this in there now. I'm going to get the Ming tails in. One thing to always bear in mind is when you bend or form large cables, especially with internal conductors, is to chop them flush again, because you can see here, look at the difference with that bend, look at the staggering, so you might not get the full conductor inside the cage. So once you've formed, chop straight. Right. The RCBO fly leads on these Proteus RCBOs are so long. That is brilliant. That's better than Hager. Hager hardly give you anything. We're almost fully stacked out on this board. I've got a couple of spare weights, that's all. All the RCBOs loaded in, everything sleeved up. Just got to dress back these fly leads, which are exceptionally long, but I mean, that's not a downside, that's brilliant. Now I'm going to run down, use my torque screwdriver, and then we've got the torque settings, so 2.5 for the main switch, 2.5 for the line, RCBO's line and load, so line 1525, earth and neutral terminals 1.5, so 2.6, so I'm going to bang it in the middle like that. So I'm going to run down and do all these. This is very important. This is a very important tool to make sure that you don't over tighten terminals and also under tighten them. Lovely. Couple of hours in, got a couple more hours to go just to finalize terminating all these in. Couple of things I don't like actually is that they put sellotape or some kind of packaging over the terminals, the MET and on the neutral terminal bar, and they're really, really fiddly. They don't come off in like one nice strip. So I've ended up with lots of tiny little bits because I just couldn't get it all off. So that's seems like an unnecessarily bit of packaging. What I do like is the length of the RCBO fly leads. The RCBO fly leads are wicked. I love the dual terminals. It seems solid, the click down and the buzz bar. It's not my favorite type of buzz bar, the kind of like U buzz bar, but it works. Knockouts are easy to do. Let's see what the RCBO terminals, how it tests out, see if they're consistent, you know, across all the terminals. But yeah, it's looking quite nice. I've just got, I've got to do a little bit of labeling on the protective bonds, but it looks quite neat. Obviously, it looks nice and neat up here, and then you can see down below, I've just shoved all the length there. But yeah, nice. Brother labeler, right? 11.7mm heat shrink tape. Perfect. Get the cheap stuff off Amazon. Just think of the next spark, you know, coming in, doing any testing or whatever. They know exactly what's what. Yeah, main gas water. Right. Put the fuse back in the carrier, turn it on. Functional test, first thing. 37.3. 37.3. 37.3, 37.3, 22.3. That's probably a load thing that's done that. A load that's thrown off the result. Fire suppression device. As standard. Right, let's see how nice this lid goes on for me. Ooh, that is nice. That wraps around quite nicely. That is a nice wraparound lid, actually. Leave that one. Leave that one, right. Stable it up. One thing I do like about this Proteus board is the detachable lid. How helpful is that? So the circuits were a bit sporadic. There was odd sockets in odd rooms, and so it's obviously been altered a few times. So the label on the fuse board would just be a bit of an indication, whereas the certificate will have a full exhaustive list of what's what. I'm using the Brother printer. I'm using this setting here, the patch panel setting, to give me my labels. So I ran out on my first one, so I reloaded. Lovely job. Just makes the job slightly neater and more professional. Look at that. Oof. These are all bi-directional RCBOs as well, as you can tell by the symbol there. We're pretty much done now. We've installed 2 lights in the loft. My mate's just up there doing it. Replaced the consumer unit, fully tested, all labelled. Proteus compact, bi-directional RCBOs, and they are nice. Consistent readings. The wraparound lid is really nice. I like the detachable front. It feels nice and solid. The knockouts are nice and easy to get out. So decent board. I didn't like the plastic that they supplied across the terminals, which I thought was a bit weird. And also the terminals on the MET and the neutral, they round off quite easily. That's my constructive bit of criticism, is that they do round off. I noticed after I undoing and doing them a couple of times, they started rounding off, which isn't ideal. However, we're back on, we're safer, we're compliant. I've also installed 2 new LED strip lights above me, if you can see them. And I've installed a new 2-way at the back of the garage with some conduit and some D-line saddles, 20mm saddles. I've added a couple of extra double sockets in the garage off the garage circuit, again in some conduit, D-line saddles. Proteus do a transformer, doorbell transformer, but I couldn't get one in time, so I've got a fuse box enclosure with the bell transformer inside, 24 volt, with a bit of conduit coming down, dedicated circuit from the board. This is the 2 outside lights I've done, up and down sensors with the doorbell. Along here I managed to rod and just do 2 holes. My initial plan was to do a channel, take a strip down the plasterboard, but I was able to do it just 2 holes where the joists were. I rodded into the garage, and if you come around the corner and have a look, it's the only option is you've got brick on the porch, is to put a bit of flat trunking down right in the corner, tight top to bottom. Classic Sparky mess, but I managed to park really close, look, really close. I also label the water protected bonding in the kitchen, gas bonding and external meter help the next spark out. It's a TNS supply. I think it was 0.12 was my reading, my ZE reading. However, there is a terminal there, but it's not labeled, so I won't use it. I'll use this TNS connection here. There's 2 of us today, so it's me and a mate of mine. I did the board whilst he got the cables round for the lights and the doorbell, and then he fitted the doorbell transformer whilst I've done the sockets and lights in the garage, and he's upstairs, so it's full shift. But yeah, nice day's graft. I know my content isn't that exciting, right? But I'm not trying to be extra special. I'm not trying to be fancy and flashy. This is just everyday Sparky work for the average Sparky, right? Putting out content to show people how I do it, why I do stuff. So, but I appreciate you watching and engaging. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe, just to help the channel keep growing. I'm really enjoying it. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And we'll see where it takes us. I've got no plans. I don't know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. I just started posting loads, during COVID. And look, it's just kind of snowballed and got to where it is today. So yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for watching.